Good day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the PGPMAX info session. The info session is your opportunity to learn more about the program. So, in the next 40 to 15 minutes, we will walk you through a presentation which details all the information about the program and on the application process. In fact, we had asked for some of your questions from your end as you registered for the event. A lot of these questions will be answered as we progress through the presentation today. But as we progress, if you do get any specific questions pertaining to some of the areas that we are going to go through, feel free to write in those questions to the Q&A box. The Q&A box is available towards the bottom of your screen. Feel free to list in your questions there, and we'll be happy to look at it as we progress through the session today. My name is Thomas. I'm one of the program managers for PGPMAX. I handle the admissions for the program, and I'll be your host today. So in the next 40 to 45 minutes, what we'll do is we'll walk you through the details of the program. We'll look at what is PGPMAX. We'll look at what is the eligibility criteria for the program. But most importantly, we'll try to address this question of why consider PGPMAX at all? Why look at it at given the stage and career that you're in? And then if you're interested in the program, we'll also look at how to get started on the application with the program. So this should take us a good 40-45 minutes, and we will open up for a Q&A after that. But as I mentioned, if you do get any questions in between, feel free to list it into the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to look at it as we progress. So very quickly, looking at the PGPMAX at ISB, the PGPMAX is a flagship executive MBA program, which is very specifically tailored for senior executives with 10 to 25 years of experience. Now, given the nature of the cohort that we attract for the program is also designed in a modular format. So it is designed in a way that it does not compromise on the rigor of the program. It does have the rigor of a full-time program, but it is spread out in a modular fashion, so that you don't have to take an opportunity cost. You can pursue this program while you are at full-time work. Now, translating all of this into numbers, the PGPMAX every year invites a cohort of 75 participants. You will have 1 week of immersion spread over 15 months. So the next intake is for August 2023. It will span till December 2024. So from August 23 to December 24, there are 12 weeks of in-person immersions, which covers about 24 credits worth of courses. Now, typically when you come for a 1 week immersion, you will come to one of our campuses on a Friday evening, and you're there till the next Friday evening. So it is 1 whole week that you spend in one of our campuses. And this is spread out in intervals of 4 to 6 weeks. So in every 30 to 45 days, you will plan for a 1 week immersion at one of our campuses. Now, the program is spread across 4 locations. Roughly about 8 weeks of classes happen at ISB's Hyderabad campus. There are 2 weeks of classes which happen at ISB's Mohali campus. And there are also 2 weeks of international immersions, which is at Wharton and London Business School. Now, this is the structure of the program. As you go through this entire structure of the program, as you go through this 12 weeks of in-person classes, there are about 500 hours of contact classes that you would have. The 12 weeks translates to 84 days, minus the Saturdays and Sundays. That is 60 days out of office, which you'll have to plan for. Now, we do recommend that you plan for this 60 days out of office well in advance as you consider the program, because the program is going to be quite rigorous, both in terms of the academic and networking components of the program. So typically when you're there for a 1 week immersion, your classes will run from Saturday morning till the next Friday afternoon. It is common to see classes run from 9 to 5. Very common to see a case study discussion or an assignment go a little later into the evening as well. And there are also a lot of networking activities which are put in place as part of the program. In fact, from a simple networking lunch or dinner on campus to a very structured networking event, there are quite a few networking events that will happen while you're there for that 1 week of immersion. So when you're there for that 1 week of immersion, it is going to be a fully packed week with academic and networking components as part of the program. And that is why planning for 60 days out of office is something that we do recommend as you consider the program. Now, how our participants do it is they usually combine the annual leaves, which are spread across 2 financial years, because the program is spread across 15 months. They combine the annual leaves along with paid or unpaid offs from the organization. So this is something to plan for, and this is something to keep in mind. There is a question from Sumit on whether networking with class or industry. There are both, Sumit. So typically the networking events are with the ISB community. So it is common to see networking events with other cohorts, with other batches, with other programs which are run on the campus. It is also common to see a lot of networking events happen with industry. Apart from all these networking events which are scheduled from ISB's side, the student community also arranges a lot of networking events. In fact, every cohort has a committee of students which is formed together. They ensure that they connect with alumni and people in the industry, and that is all very common aspects of the PGPMAX program. In fact, a lot of these events when it happens is shared through our social handles. So if you do follow our social handles, you will get an update of what are some of these activities and what are some of the events and what is a typical week like when they come in to the campus. Now, a little on the PGPMAX program. The PGPMAX is ranked #1 in the country for the executive MBA rankings of both Financial Times and Economist. In fact, it is the only program from India to feature in the global top 50 executive MBA rankings. We were ranked number 44th in the last Financial Times executive MBA rankings of 2022. And PGPMAX is also a member of the EMBAC. The EMBAC is the Executive MBA Council. It is a council of global schools which deliver executive MBA programs who come together to ensure that what is taught in PGPMAX and the process around an executive MBA program has a lot of global standards and it is relevant to the needs of the industry. And PGPMAX is the only program from the country to be part of the EMBAC Council. So these are some of the distinctions of the program. The program has been in existence from 2010, and over the last around 15 years, the program has been consistently rated as one of the best executive MBA programs in this part of the world. Now, the eligibility criteria for the program is that you should have an undergrad degree and have 10 plus years of work experience. So for the intake that is upcoming, so for the August 2023 intake, this means that you should have 10 plus years of work experience as of July 2023 to apply for the program. Now, we don't ask for a GMAT or GRE in the program. Therefore, the emphasis is more on your profile. The emphasis is more on the quality of work experience that you've had and what each candidate brings to the cohort as a whole. So therefore, a lot of focus is on your profile, is on your work experience. So the undergrad degree and your 10 plus years of work experience is an eligibility criteria, and it's also an important part of the assessment criteria as well. Now, these are stats from our current cohort. We have 19 plus industries represented. 40 is the average age, and 17 is the average years of work experience in the class. Now, every year, the admission committee ensures that the cohort that is put together for PGPMAX is a diverse community of individuals put together. So we do have representation from across industries, and apart from the standard corporate profiles that somebody might assume that will make most of the participants of any executive MBA program, we also have people from other walks of life. In fact, in the current cohort, there are doctors, there's a lawyer, there's a fashion designer, there are entrepreneurs, there are people from defense, even the DIG of police is part of the program. So that is how diverse the group of individuals who come together for the PGPMAX at ISB is, and that is something that the admission committee would keep a close eye on to ensure that the in-class experience of the program is structured in the best way possible. In fact, this is a representation of some of the industries and functions which are represented in the program. So you can see that by virtue of where we are, IT services and IT products do account for a major share of the industry representation. About 28% of the class comes from IT services and IT functions. But even within that, the functional representation is very diverse. So you will have a true technologist all the way up to somebody who is part of the business side of functions in IT as well. So that is how the diversity is taken care of. It is both industry specific and also function specific. In fact, the diversity in the program is not limited to industry and functions alone, but is also represented by the number of years of work experience represented in the program. This ensures that people at various stages of their career are also part of the program. So these are stats from the current cohort. A deep dive, you would see that 10 to 12 years is 13% of the cohort, 12 to 14 another 14%, and so on. So as much as possible, there is an equal split in terms of the diversity that is brought in by the number of years of work experience that is put on the table. So anywhere from senior managers or project leaders to directors, VPs, and CXOs are part of the cohort. In fact, in the current cohort, when we do say that 10 to 10 to 25 years is the experience that we look for, the current cohort, there are people with as wide as 10 or 11 years of experience, all the way up to 34, 35 years of experience. So that is how the diversity in the program is considered. The admission committee keeps a very close eye on this to ensure that the right mix of people are brought in for the program to ensure a good class is formed together. Now, the program has a general management focus. So, given the nature of the cohort that we attract, the program has a leadership and strategy focus that is spread across the general management offering. So, it has 24 courses, out of which all these courses would cover the breadth of knowledge requirement for general management. We have split these courses into 8 vertical themes. 4 of these are on the screen right now. So you can see some of the courses which are listed there. Those courses cover the breadth of knowledge requirement for general management. There are no specializations in the program. It is a general management program. The difference between an executive MBA when compared to a normal MBA is that it is a top-down approach. So there is a decision maker's point of view that is very purposefully brought in to the delivery of the program. So for instance, when a case is discussed in marketing or when a scenario is discussed in finance, the objective will be to look at how is that going to impact the larger organization, and therefore, what is the leadership and strategy perspective to be taken. So a very purposeful decision maker's point of view is brought into the delivery of the program, and that sets the learning experience in PGPMAX apart from the other MBA programs which are out there. Now on screen, I'm showing the other 4 verticals which are there. The courses marked in gray on screen are the courses which you will do as part of the international immersion as well. So all of these courses are designed in a way that it gives you a holistic organizational perspective. While we go through any of these subjects, the focus is more around how is that going to impact a large organization, and therefore how you should handle any of those cases or scenarios which would be coming up given in that subject. And that is a distinctive feature of PGPMAX when compared to the other MBA offerings which are out there, even within the ISB ecosystem. Now, given the modular structure of the program, the teaching methodology in the program is a combination of things. So there are certain pre-course reading that you are expected to do. So in the 4 to 6 weeks that leads to your 1 week of immersion, there is a certain amount of pre-reading that is expected to be done. Now the pre-reads are course-related material or a program-related case study that is shared by the faculty. You're expected to read this and come prepared for the class when the weekly immersion happens. Now, the time commitment required for this is about 3 to 4 hours invested on a weekly basis for the 4 to 6 weeks that leads to this 1 week of immersion. And when you finally are on campus, the courses are also seconded by a lot of these activities, including industry speaker series, simulation exercises, and a lot of case studies to second your learning experience with inputs from industry. Now, there are literally a lot of case studies. There are literally about 100 plus case studies that are part of the program. So that is the academic rigor that is to be expected as part of the PGPMAX program. Now, we don't have placement services in the program, but we do understand that there are specific career services need for senior executives at the stage in career that you're in. Given that the program has 3 levels of career services support that is offered. At a very basic level, the learning and development team at ISB helps you with the sheer basics, from prepping your cover letter or CV to getting you connected with headhunters in the industry. Up to 3 one-to-one discussions with headhunters is facilitated by the learning and development team. That is something that is coordinated by the learning and development team all through the span of the program. Now, midway through the program, we also have something called executive coaching. This is part of our lead initiative. I'll talk about that in a while. And once you graduate from the program, you also have access to the alumni job portal, which is a very strong facilitator for the career moves that we have seen. In fact, given the senior executive category of participants that we get, the alumni job portal has been a very strong facilitator for the PGPMAX program, because at a senior executive level, if there are 10 jobs out there, Typically, only about 3 come to the open market. Remaining 7 are usually sourced by executive search firms or by the companies internally. And that is where the alumni job portal becomes a very important tool. It gives you the insider input on what is happening in the industry, who is hiring, and what are the roles they're hiring for. And it works through the referral system, and the entire PGPMAX community and the ISB community is part of the system. So it works through the referral system, and it's something that has worked very well for alums to consider other options when they are in the job search phase. Now, the executive coaching is a flagship offering in PGPMAX. What it does is halfway through the program, midway through the program, you're given access to an online platform for 60 days where you do a 360-degree evaluation of yourself. There is a peer-rated review that is done. Based on that, you identify your areas for improvement and your strength areas. And there are 300 plus coaching modules which you get access to. And you get the option to go through these 300 plus modules with coaches from across the world. Now, these coaching modules are available in various categories. So from a soft skill aspect, there are coaching modules on, there is something called sleep coaching, there is diet coaching, there is communication coaching, voice coaching, all the way up to business specific coaching, such as negotiation skills or function or domain specific coaching, which are offered as part of this. So there are 300 plus coaching modules. Typically, each of our participants tailor these experience with 7 to 8 coaching modules. But this is a completely tailored experience that you get to shape your leadership journey with coaches from across the world. And coaches could be anywhere from across the world. There are multiple options available, and you get to tailor this experience all by yourself. This is a very unique offering of the PGPMAX at ISB. This is something that a lot of our participants talk highly about. In fact, I would recommend that you connect with some of our current students to know more about what are these executive coaching modules which are put in place and how it is beneficial for somebody at that stage in career. Now, the fees for the program is 41 lakh 63 plus GST. So including the GST component, it is 49 lakh 50,000. It is payable in 4 equal installments. So the way it works is, should you get an offer from ISB, you'll be asked to pay an admission fee to confirm your acceptance for the program. The admission fee is 3 lakh plus GST, 3 lakh 54,000. Once you pay that, the remaining amount is split into 4 equal installments, which is payable in intervals of 3 months each. And the structure for this is laid out in the web page. So I would recommend that you look at the PGPMAX web page to look at this fees payment schedule as well. We do have financial aid options put in place. We have 9 banking partners who offer very competitive rates of loan for pursuing this program. The details for these are also listed in the PGPMAX webpage. What I'll do is I will share these details, the link to these details in the chat box right now. Please refer to this link, which I'm sharing in the chat box right now, to know more about the bank loans which are there as part of the PGPMAX program. So about 80% of a cohort are self-funded. A portion of a cohort also gets some funding from their corporates. So there are about, in this current cohort, there are 13% of our participants who got full funding from their organizations and about 8% got partial funding. So that is something that we would encourage you to explore with your organization. If your organization is open for funding, that is one option to explore. But considering that about 80% of our participants are self-funded, ISB also has about 20% of our participants get merit-based scholarship. Now, the scholarships are offered based on merit, and there are some considerations which are put together, which is listed on the screen right now. But in principle, what the admission committee is going to look at is your profile and the value that you bring to the table. Therefore, building a very strong application and having a very strong profile or strong reasoning communicated while during the application process is important for scholarship consideration as well. And this is something that we would recommend you to consider as you build your application itself. There is no separate application for the scholarship. Whatever is communicated through your application, the admission process itself is a process for scholarship consideration as well. So therefore, do ensure that you put out your best case while you're structuring the application for the PGPMAX program. Now, the larger question is, why consider PGPMAX at all? Why look at this program given the point in career that you are in? Let me pause for a while here and play this video. This is Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary, one of our most sought after professors at ISB, talking about the PGPMAX at ISB. We'll have a look at this video and come back.
You might be wondering, why at this stage in my life do I need to go back to school? Why MBA now? And what is it that PGPMAX is going to offer me? You see, you are at that stage in life where you have the maturity, but now you want to rethink. You want to think about things fundamentally. You want to rethink from the basics so that you can reinvent your business, you can reinvent the world around you to see if things can be done differently, because the world is changing. The world is not the same that it was 10 or 15 years ago, and it's changing rapidly. PGPMAX will give you that opportunity to explore this with alumni who are trying to do the same thing.
Borrowing his words, this is exactly what PGPMAX tries to do. It enables you to rethink, reimagine, and reinvent yourself at the stage in career that you're in. And we get to do it with a lot of aspects. One is definitely the curriculum, which is a very specific leadership and strategy focused curriculum that brings in a decision maker's point of view. We also get to do it with our amazing set of faculties who teach in the program. Now, given the seniority of the cohort that we attract for the program, the faculties who teach in this program are also some of our senior most faculties within the ISB ecosystem. Here is one example. This is Professor Prashant Kale, one of our most sought after faculties. He is a academic track faculty. He comes from Rice University. He is a PhD from Wharton and has been teaching at ISB ever since the inception of PGPMAX program. He teaches strategy in the program. He's one of our most sought after professors and somebody who comes from the academic track. So these are research track professors who do substantial research in the areas that they teach at ISB. We also have professors who come from a practice track. Now, one example is Professor Nandu Nandakishore. Professor Nandu was part of Nestle for a good 35, 36 years before he came into academia. He was, in fact, the CEO for Nestle at LATAM, Europe, and APAC markets. And he today teaches at both the London Business School and at ISB. And he's one of our practice track professors who comes from the practice background. He is a practice track professor for marketing. He's a clinical professor. And these are the two categories of professors who teach in the program. One is the research track professors, and one are practice track professors, and they come with substantial years of experience to teach in the PGPMAX program. That is a big value add that adds a lot into the experience of the program as well. Now, on screen, I'm listing some of the career journeys of our alumni. Now, irrespective of the industries they are from, irrespective of the function they are in, one common theme is prevalent. They were all functional leaders who progressed into a organizational leadership role. And that is the core objective of PGPMAX as a program. The PGPMAX's core objective is to enable somebody from a functional leadership role, somebody who has progressed within a vertical role, to move into a organizational leadership role by taking a holistic view of the organization. And this remains the central theme of the program. Therefore, the curriculum or any of the learning design that you see in the program are very specifically designed with this as the core objective. Now, for entrepreneurs who are joining us in this call, this is information for you. In fact, the PGPMAX is one such program where we have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners join us. We also have a lot of participants who then take the entrepreneurial pursuit post the program as well. So at ISB, we have something called the D Labs and Atal Innovation Center. The ISB Hyderabad campus houses an incubation center called the D Labs. And the Mohali campus has something called the Atal Innovation Center. These facilities have been in operation for more than a decade, but last year, we brought all of this under one umbrella brand called iVentures. Now, iVentures at ISB over the last one decade has done tremendous work in terms of nurturing startups in several areas and several industries. In fact, we have 170 plus startups nurtured, out of which 70 plus startups have gone on to raise funding. And as part of the PGPMAX community, you also get access to use several of these initiatives that are part of the iVentures at ISB. In fact, iVentures is such a system that if you only have an idea, there is a pre-incubation program to incubation, acceleration, and even funding. So if you have a mature startup, or should you have a mature startup somewhere down the line, you also have the option to come back to the campus and explore funding options. We have something called Catapult, which is more like a in-house Shark Tank, which is steered by a committee led by Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary, where you get to present your startup, present your pitch, and get access to VCs from across the world. So this is the whole gambit of offering that is there as part of the iVentures ecosystem at ISB. From pre-incubation to incubation, acceleration, and funding is offered as a solution for our students and for our alumni across the ISB community. Now, another big advantage that you get when you're part of ISB is the alumni network itself. It's one of the most active alumni networks in the world. We have 13,500 plus alumni spread across 400 cities in 60 plus countries. 600 plus of them are in senior roles, in senior CXO roles or thought leadership roles. A lot of them come from the PGPMAX community, given the nature of the cohort that we attract for the program. Now, that is one big access that you get as part of the PGPMAX program at ISB as well. Now, larger question might be, when should you consider this program? What stage in your career should you consider this program? Let me walk you through some of our alum journeys to explore the various options which are there. On screen, you can see the profile of Gaurav Mahindra. Gaurav Mahindra did the program back in 2013. He's a alum from the batch of 2013. He joined us as a vice president when he was a vice president at JP Morgan. And he, after completion of the program, he progressed into becoming the managing director for technology and operations at JP Morgan. And he recently started a new role as the executive VP for Wells Fargo. Now, we had an interview with him where we asked him why he took PGPMAX and how it helped him. And he spoke highly about how PGPMAX helps senior executives signal that they're ready for the next step in their career and signal this right away to the organization. So in fact, he went on to explain that a VP to managing director within JP Morgan is a natural career path that he might have had in a span of 10 to 11 years. But what PGPMAX did was it helped him accelerate that journey and assume that position within 5 to 6 years. And that is one of the reasons why some people would consider the program. It can be a catalyst and enabler for accelerating your career, for signaling that you're ready for the next role to the organization. This is Dilip Kumar Kandelwal. He is one of our senior alums from the batch of 2013. He joined us when he was the MD for SAP Labs. He has today progressed into a more global role with Deutsche Bank. He is today the global CIO and the MD and CEO for the India version of the bank. For him, the use case for PGPMAX was to use PGPMAX to move into a global career. And he was already at a very senior leadership role when he joined us. And he used the program to move into a very senior global role in his career as well. So that is another track that we see. This is Shika Bagai. She was also a CFO when she joined us. So she was already in a very senior role when she pursued PGPMAX at ISB. She's in fact part of our founding batch, part of the cohort of 11. She's today assumed a global role with Vista Group as the MD for India and Mauritius. Her objective was also to deepen her understanding, add a business layer of knowledge to move into a global role. And that is one of the reasons that people consider the program for. This is Susharita Singh. She is the Director for People Practices at EA. She handles India and Australia for this function at EA. She did the program back in 2009, and for her, she had moved into this global role and she wanted a program that would help her to structure her thought process around taking decisions while she is in this global role. And that was her reason for pursuing PGPMAX. And that was one of the stated objectives for Sucharita to consider the program. This is Vidyut. Vidyut was one of our youngest participants of the program. He graduated as part of the class of 20. He ran a company called Celebrity Fashions and he was part of India Today. He's a joint MD for India Today. His objective for considering the program was to accelerate his career journey as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and to take his business further, to scale up his business further. In fact, today, in a recent interview, he stated that India Terrain today has a objective to expand across India, and he's using the network and the community that he got through ISB to do this as well. So this was one of his stated goals. He was an entrepreneur. He was running a successful organization, and he wanted to scale it up, and that was his reason for considering the program. Sharad Agarwal did the program at a later stage in his career. In fact, he had substantial years of experience when he considered the program. So he was part of our PGPMAX class of 15. He was already leading a technical role as part of Air India. In fact, he was responsible for the merger between Air India and Indian Airlines when he joined the program. And today he has progressed into a role of being the CEO for Air India Engineering Services. His stated objective was that to add a business layer of knowledge to his technical expertise. And that is why he considered the program at a later stage in his career. And that could also be one of the reasons. Sunanda Agarwal is the group finance controller at Microsoft. Now, we like talking about her case here because she is somebody who did the program when a lot of people might assume that it is challenging to do the program. She was a mother of two, had very young toddler to take care of, and she did the program while her career was getting into a busy phase. And she graduated as one of the top graduates of the class. She is a gold medalist from the class of 2020, and her case is, in fact, a big motivator for people who might be considering the program but is limited by other objectives or other priorities which are there in their personal lives. Sunanda is a wonderful example for people who can take that leap in spite of the personal challenges which might be there. And there is a powerful ecosystem that is available at ISB to enable this journey. There's an incredible power of support that is put together within the ISB ecosystem. And we would encourage any of you who are undecided because of this to look at these enablers which are put in place as you consider the program as well. Preetham comes from a different walk of life. He's a doctor. He's a practicing neonatologist at Rainbow Hospitals. In fact, he wanted to add a business layer of knowledge over to his practice area of being a doctor. And that is why he considered the program. He's a graduate of the class of 21. Raghuram was a lieutenant colonel with the army. He came out of the army and he was looking at the second phase of his life. He knew that he wanted to be an entrepreneur but didn't know how to get started. And that is when he was pursuing PGPMAX. And incidentally, found his co-founder along with his cohort member and co-founded a company with one of his cohort mates. They started a company called Aspector Technologies here in Hyderabad. It is incubated as in the D Labs at ISB. And he is now running the company based out of Hyderabad. He's an example for how veterans would transition to the other side of their corporate journey. Another veteran who took this journey is Amit Raj Sinha. Amit Raj Sinha was part of the Indian Navy for a good 15, 16 years before he transitioned to the corporate side. And later in his journey, he pursued his PGPMAX at ISB. He's part of our class of 18. He's today the MD and CEO of Sigachi Enterprises, another veteran who at his later stage of corporate journey considered the program and transitioned to a leadership role. Now, it is very common to see people from the corporate side move into an entrepreneurial journey. Naveen is a classical example for that. Naveen was part of the IT space in the US for a good 15, 16 years, after which he came back to India and started a company called Devami Enterprises. Later, he joined PGPMAX as part of the class of 14 to help him in his entrepreneurial journey and to scale up his business. And he's been a successful entrepreneur ever since. His company is at a very mature phase today. And it's a high growth organization today. The other side is also true. Ritu Kaul is somebody who moved from the entrepreneurial side back into the corporate side. Ritu was in fact running a successful marketing consulting firm while she considered the program. She co-founded this company and she was running this for about, she ran this for about good 10, 12 years. And today has transitioned into the corporate side. She is today the chief marketing officer for Callens in US. And is operating out of US for as part of this company. So these are some of the journeys which we wanted to put forward to you to help you understand at what stages in their career people consider the program. You would see that people at senior leadership to the entry stages of senior executive level consider the program. People use it for various reasons to add in a business layer of knowledge, to accelerate their careers, to make the transition, are all some of the reasons why we see people use the program. In fact, you can read a lot more about this in the ISB PGP Max blogs. A lot of these alumni interviews and alumni stories are listed as part of these blogs. I'm sending the link to access these blogs in the chat box right now. Please use this link to read more about some of these journeys. We have done detailed interviews where we ask these same questions that some of you might have in your mind. Why consider PGP Max? How has it helped you professionally? How has it helped you transition or move to the next stage? All of these are questions that we asked. A lot of these are listed as part of the blogs. I've just sent the link in the chat box right now. Feel free to have a look at these blogs where you can learn more about some of the experience from our alumni as well. Now, all of this said, if this sounds like the right program for you, if this is a program of interest for you, how to get started with the program, this is the date to keep in mind. The final deadline for the August 2023 intake is March 19th, 2023. So this is a date to keep in mind. The application fees is 15,000. There is an online application that you'll have to fill. It is a comprehensive application. In fact, you can access the application here. This is the link to access the application. I'm sending the link for the application in the chat box as well. It is pgpmax.isb.edu. If you type in that into a browser, you will be taken to the application page. You'll have to register and you will see that it's a comprehensive application. It'll ask for a lot of details. We did mention that your undergrad degree and 10 plus years of work experience is what we ask for in terms of your eligibility criteria. So you'll go on to fill an online profile which talks a lot about this. You will fill in your education details and most importantly, your work experience details. The work experience communicates the scope and impact of the experience that you've had and is an important consideration for the assessment as part of PGP Max. You will also be asked to write in 2 essays and give 2 professional recommendations. The essays communicate your motivation to pursue the program. Now, these are very short essays. These are 300-word essays that we ask for. But thinking about the larger narrative for the essay is something that will need time. So we are about 30 days away from the application deadline. So if you're considering applying for this program, this is the right time to start the application and look at these essay questions, because we typically say that the 4th or 5th iteration might be the final essay that you come to. So do take the time to build in a right essay. This is an important component of the application process for the admission consideration. We also ask for 2 professional recommendations. Now, what we'll need is the official email ID of 2 recommenders who can write about you. The recommenders will be asked for inputs in terms of certain descriptive questions. We do ask them, how do they know you? What are your strengths, weaknesses, and how will the program benefit you? There is also a scale in which they have to grade you from 1 to 10 for some of the qualities that the admission committee would look for. So these have to be people who know you really well to write about you in good command. This could be from your current organization. This could be referrals from your previous organizations. This could also be a client or vendor that you might have had. So thinking about the right person to list in as your recommender is also something that might take some time. So do take the time as you plan to apply for the PGPMAX program to put in all of these details together. Now on screen, I'm listing the selection criteria for the program. The selection criteria is as listed. A lot of the components that the admission committee looks for is communicated through your application. So your application is an important element of the application stage for PGPMAX as a program. Now, after the application evaluation, if you progress to the second stage, that is an admission interview. The admission interview is a detailed interview with a panel of PGPMAX alumni. There will be 2 or 3 PGPMAX alumni in a panel, and they would want to deep dive into your profile and into your application to know more about you. So therefore, the application is an important element wherein you need to communicate all of the details that is required by the admission committee to help us with the evaluation process. On screen, we have listed some of these points to consider. Now, in principle, there are 4 criteria which are considered while looking at your application. One is your motivation to pursue the program. So why PGPMAX and why at this point in your career is an important question to consider and communicate to the admission committee. Second is the value that you bring to the table by virtue of the experience that you have. Third is your leadership potential and global outlook. And fourth is your future aspiration and how well the program aligns with your future aspirations. So communicating all of this is important. So for instance, if leadership and global experience is something that you can communicate through the descriptive sections of the application. So please make use of the essays or the work experience columns to write in as much details as possible about your experience so that the admission evaluators get to know about your profile better. This is how you should go about building the application. There is a detailed application workshop that we host. Some of these workshops are listed in YouTube, so please refer back to these workshops where we have already gone through the details of how to go about the application. We will have similar workshops coming in the subsequent weeks, so please feel free to join us and we'll also walk you through some of these sample essays to help you with the process as well. Now that covers a lot of the details about the program that we had. If there are any questions on the program, feel free to type it into the Q&A box right now. I'll be happy to answer it. These are our contact details. Our email ID is pgpmax@isb.edu. Smriti and me and Thomas, we both handle the admissions for the program. These are the direct lines to reach us, direct numbers to reach us. Please have a note of these numbers and feel free to reach out to us when you need any support with the application process or with assessing the program. If you would need a profile evaluation and if you would want to have a one-to-one conversation arranged for a profile evaluation, feel free to book a profile evaluation using this link on the screen. I am sharing the link for profile evaluation for a one-to-one call in the chat box as well. So in the chat box, I'm sending a link right now. This is the link to book a one-to-one conversation with our team. Feel free to share in your details and we'll be happy to look at your profile and suggest if this is the right program for you or not. And if this is the right program, we'll also be able to help you with the application process and walk you through some of those details of how you should consider the program as you proceed with it. Next weekend, the next Saturday from 5 to 6:30, we have something called the Student Diaries. Student Diaries is an online event where we bring in 3 of our current students to talk about their experience in the program. So this is an opportunity to get the insider perspective from current participants of the program. Feel free to join us for this event as well. I'm sharing the link for the Student Diaries in the chat box right now. Please do register for the event and join us for this event. This is an opportunity to ask open-ended questions to our current participants. You can ask questions about the program experience, what brought them here, what is the ROI that they're getting out of the program, and so on. So that will be a first-hand experience of getting the data, getting the info from our current participants. We invite you for this event. I'm sharing the link for this in the chat box right now. There is a question in the chat box. Is this program a postgraduate equivalent in India? What is the degree awarded? Right, good question, Sumit. We award a certification which is called the PGPMAX. The PGPMAX is postgraduate program in management for senior executives. So it is a global executive MBA equivalent, and that certificate is what we award. In India, we cannot call this an MBA. We don't call this an MBA because we don't come under the UGC. And that is a conscious decision that ISB took about 20 years back during the inception. So none of our programs are called the MBA or a master's degree for that in India because we don't come under UGC. And there are a couple of reasons for why we do that. In fact, the UGC puts out some mandates which doesn't help with the ISB model of delivery. For instance, the UGC puts a cap on how many visiting faculties can teach in a program. This is capped at 30%, whereas the ISB model is that we have 70 in-house faculties and a pool of 200 global faculties who teach at ISB. So any program at ISB will have about 60-70% global faculties coming and teaching in the program. So that is something that the school's model doesn't comply with, can't help with. And the UGC also puts a mandate on how much we can pay some of these faculties. So that is also something that the ISB model doesn't help, because most of our global faculties who come in are uh, top-rated professors who come from really good global schools. So they come at a very different price point when compared to the price point set by UGC. So these are some of the reasons why we don't come under UGC or AICTE in India. And for that reason, we don't get to call it an MBA. But the PGP Max is a global executive MBA equivalent, and it is the only executive MBA from India to be featured in the global top 50 rankings as well. There is a follow-up question from Sumit on whether I can use a EMBA towards a PhD. So this depends on the PhD. So it depends on the selection criteria for the PhD. For instance, PhDs in US look at your undergrad program. PhDs in Europe typically look for a specialized master's. Certain PhDs will be taking some of the credit hours, and they would, if there is a credit lacking, if there is a lesser credit hour exposure, they will ask you to do some bridge courses or follow-up courses to bridge in those credit hours which are required. For instance, if you're planning to do a PhD in economics, and if you don't have a economics rigor in any of the courses that you've done, those universities will ask you to do the extra courses to bridge in those rigor as before you go do the PhD in economics. Now, it really depends on the PhD criteria, the selection criteria for this given PhD. There are people who have done the PGP Max at ISB who are doing the PhD across the globe. In fact, 11 of our alumni are currently doing the EFPM program at ISB. The EFPM is an executive PhD, which is offered at ISB. So those are all options, but it really depends on the PhD that you're considering. So I'd recommend that you look at what are some of these criteria for the PhD. There's a question from Praveen, more about international immersion. Okay. The international immersions are, so there are two international immersions. Let me go to the screen right now. So this is the structure of the program, Praveen, for your reference. There are two international immersions as part of the program. One immersion is at Wharton in US, and one immersion is at London Business School. The immersions typically happen towards the 6th and 7th week of the program. So it is midway through the program that you do the immersion. Sorry, the 7th and 9th weeks of the program. Typically, there are one or two courses that you do in these universities. The Wharton School is where you would do the mergers and acquisition course of the program. London Business School is where you might do organizational behavior or global business. These are all courses which are delivered in those campuses. So the faculty is there and deliver this course there. You typically go for a 1-week immersion from a Friday to Friday, just like any of the other weekly immersions which are there as part of PGP Max. And it is one whole week spent in London Business School and at Wharton, going through those two courses which you're supposed to complete there. That is the structure for PGP Max immersions. How is the program different from PGP Pro is another question. So a couple of differences. The format itself is different. The PGP Max is delivered all on campus in person. There are no online learning components in PGP Max, whereas the PGP Pro is a weekend MBA model. This typically happens over weekend on alternate weekends of online and in-person classes. But more importantly, the core objectives are different. So the PGP Pro is designed for somebody at a mid-level position who is now aspiring to move into a senior executive role. So typically we look for people with 5 to 12 years of experience. There is no upper cap on experience. 5+ years is what we look for. But majority of the cohort come under 5 to 12 years of experience, and 10 years is the average experience in the class. PGP Max, on the other hand, is designed for senior executives who are now looking to move into an organizational leadership role. So therefore, the cohort that we attract for PGP Max is a slightly more senior cohort when compared to the PGP Pro program. We look at people with 10 to 25 years of experience. 17 years is the average experience in the class. So that is a big difference, and that difference goes into the curriculum, the delivery, the in-class experience of the program, and so on. So that is something to consider. There's a question from Hardik. Can you share details required for dedicated on a weekly basis along with fee structure? Yes. So the Weekly commitment required is that you will do 12 weeks on campus spread over 15 months. So from August 23 till December 24, there are 12 weeks of in-person classes that will happen. Typically, you will come to one of our campus on a Friday evening and you will be there till the next Friday evening. So it is one whole week that you spend on the campus. Now, these are spread across locations. Roughly about 8 weeks happen at ISB Hyderabad campus, 2 weeks at ISB's Mohali campus, and 2 weeks are the international immersions, which are there. The details of this, the academic calendar for the program already has the details of this. If you don't have the brochure, I would recommend that you download the brochure. The last page of the brochure has an academic calendar listing, and the details of where in the year the weeks fall is already listed in the academic calendar, and those dates seldom change. Those dates are more or less put in place. So that will give you a good idea of when these weekly immersions will happen and how to plan for it. This another question from Praveen. Executive coaching is self-reading or pre-recorded videos or live sessions and one-to-one discussion. These are one-to-one discussions with coaches from across the world. So you will assign these sessions with your designated coach. For instance, if you plan to do, say, voice coaching or sleep coaching with a coach, there is a specific coach who will sit with you for one-to-one discussion, and the sessions are uh, decided by the coaches depending on your tailored needs. So you might have once a week a session, you might have multiple sessions a week. That is all dependent on the coach and the program that you choose. But it is one-to-one and it is a tailored experience. So how is it different or more or less advantageous from leading international B schools like Harvard is another question. So in terms of the program, the PGPMAX is a global executive MBA equivalent. In fact, back in 2010, when we started the program because of a sheer need from the industry. So typically there are lineup of leaderships made at multiple levels in the industry. For instance, if you take a large bank, there will be there'll be a lineup of VPs out of which the next directors would come. Then there'll be a lineup of directors out of which the next managing director might come, and so on. So that that lineup of leadership is made at multiple organizations, and when somebody has progressed within a vertical role, there is a ceiling that they reach where the vertical leadership would end. Then they have to step into a more holistic view, get the organizational perspective, and any further roles will need the organizational perspective to be put in. That is where an executive MBA comes handy, and that is the sole purpose, the objective of an executive MBA as well. So this is exactly what the PGPMAX does. In fact, back in 2010, when we put the program together, we went to our partner schools, which is Wharton and London Business School, and recreated the entire program, the entire executive MBA there, and brought it here. That is how the PGPMAX here started. So in terms of being a program, it is an executive MBA offering. In terms of curriculum or in terms of the structure or delivery or even the faculty lineup, there is not much of a difference that you would see from school to school. Uh, one of the one of the major differences that you will see from school to school in terms of any of the executive MBAs is the cohort concentration and composition, cohort and alumni concentration composition. So, typically a London Business School would have a larger share of people coming from finance industry. Um, Stanford would have a larger share from the tech community. We do have a larger share from the pharma, finance, and IT services and product side. So this is something that would range from school to school, vary from school to school. That is probably the only stark difference that you might see. And given the different background of people, would how is the program catered to their respective career path is another question. So the program doesn't have a placement objective, since it is senior executives that we invite, since these are people who are in very senior roles who uh, are in different stages of their career. A placement objective is not there in the program and it doesn't work that way at those senior levels. But there are these career services support systems which are put in place all through the program as well. I'm sharing this on the screen right now. So there are basically three levels of career services support that is offered through the program. At a very basic level, the learning and development team helps with the sheer basics. They help you with the CVs, the cover letter, and in getting one-to-one sessions with headhunters. That is something that the school supports with. Midway through the program, the executive coaching is a very specific, tailored experience to shape your leadership journey. And once you graduate from the program, you get access to the alumni job portal, which is another strong facilitator for the career moves that we have seen. So these are the support mechanisms put in place for career services. Uh, Otherwise, the network itself is the biggest impact because you're part of a very big community, and that talks a lot for itself. So, in fact, what I would recommend here is we do host a lot of our alumni and students for multiple levels. So, the student diaries is where we host three of our current students, and the CEO story is where we host three of our alumni from the program. And we ask them these same questions. How did PGPMAX help you professionally? What was your career impact, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the events where you will get to learn more about their experience. And if you talk to 10 different alums, you'll get 10 different stories, and that is the best part of PGPMAX, and that's the diversity that is brought into the program. So I would recommend that if you go to YouTube and search for PGPMAX student diaries and PGPMAX CEO stories, you'll see a lot of these recordings there. That is one way of assessing it. And also in the chat box, I had shared the link to some of the detailed interviews that we had with our alumni. That is also a good source to learn more about the PGPMAX career journey. Does PGPMAX have students outside of India? We do. We do have a lot of participants coming in and doing the program from different geographies. In fact, there are people who would fly in and do the program from Middle East, from Southeast Asia. In the last cohort, we have somebody from who is doing the program from Africa. In fact, in almost all cohorts, we have representation from US, Europe, and Australia as well. So there are people who do it, but a lot of them are Indian origin people who are there in those markets who come to do this here because they either want to come back to India or they want to get the India perspective. So that is a strong reason why people consider the PGPMAX program as well. And it is one of those programs which has a lot of India tailored components as well. A lot of those delivery uh, has a lot of case studies from this part of the world. So that is something that people seek from other markets as well. There's another question. With 5 years of corporate experience, will uh, somebody be eligible for this program? No, the eligibility criteria for the program is that you should have an undergrad degree and you should have 10 plus years of work experience. 5 years does not meet the eligibility criteria for PGPMAX, but there are multiple other programs within the ISB system that you can consider. If you could book a one-to-one call with us, I'll be happy to look at your profile and guide you to the right program as well. In terms of academic requirements, are there any specific requirements in terms of grades? Also, as far as work experience is concerned, does one need to have from the private sector into senior leadership roles? And in terms of, okay, so these are the questions which has come in. So what I would suggest is in terms of academic requirement, there is no specific requirement around grades. In fact, there is a grading criteria that the admission evaluators have. It ranges from university to university. So for instance, there are some universities where 60% is a really good score. There are some universities where that might be 90%. So that grading scale is there with evaluators, but uh, it's not the only criteria. This is one of the criteria. So there is a certain weightage for your academic performance, but that's a very small percentage when compared to the work experience part of uh, the weightage given to the work experience side. In fact, the work experience is an important criteria for consideration into the program. The quality of work experience and the scope and impact of the work experience that you've had is an important criteria, and that will be considered in much detail by the admission evaluators. It need not be specifically from any sectors. As I mentioned, there are people from various backgrounds who are part of the program. There are entrepreneurs, there are people from the corporate, there are people from defense, there are people from uh, the parallel industries as well. So uh, it need not be from a specific industry. It need not be from a specific sector. All profiles are equally considered, but what they do look at is the scope and impact of the work experience that you've had. So that is something to consider in much detail as you plan to apply for the program. There is a question on what is the ROI. Now, the ROI might be different for different people. Then that is what we have seen. In fact, it is a program where you have people from a senior manager or a project leader role all the way up to VPs, directors, and CXOs. So the ROI for the CXO and the ROI for the senior manager in the program would be two different things. Therefore, what I would recommend is that if you, as I mentioned, if you do go back to some of these blogs, detailed interviews where we have asked these questions of ROIs to our alumni as well. So those blogs are one area to look at to consider more about ROI. And the PGPMAX CEO story, you will see a lot of the recordings of the CEO story listed in YouTube. Uh, there in CEO story and in student diaries, we ask our participants what was their ROI from the program. So you'll see a lot of responses and a lot of different responses from our participants listed there. That is another way to assess the ROI as well. What are the global opportunities through alumni? Again, this it varies, depends on your profile, depends on what your objectives are. A lot of our alumni are globally placed. In fact, there are cases of our alumni moving to different markets, and there are cases of our current students while in the program moving to different markets as well. But it's not a program takeaway alone. It is a combination of things working together. So again, what I would recommend is if you can go back to some of these alum stories that we discussed, a lot of the inputs there will help you understand more about this. There is another question. Could you please guide me specific reasons for a program being so expensive, even more expensive than a regular MBA in ISB or IM and Dubai and Bangalore? Yes. So there are various reasons which add into the expense. One definitely is the faculties who teach in the program. Now, as I mentioned, given the cohort, given the seniority of the cohort that we attract for the program, some of our best faculties from within the system teach in the program. So on screen are some of these profiles. These are highly rated faculties, star-rated faculties from global schools who come and teach in the program. So they come at a very different price point. That is one of the reasons for the program. The program also includes your residential component as well. So the 41 lakh 63 plus GST, 4950 that you pay also includes the residential component. So the boarding and lodging for all your 12 weeks, including in the India campus and in the international campus, is part of the fee. And the case studies and program materials are also part of the fee. So that is another component which shoots up the cost. For the full-time program, that's not the case. These residential components, the stay in the campus or the food is not part of the program fee. Those are some of the reasons why these figures are very different. There's a follow-up question again. Does the program include accommodation? Yes, that's a very good question. In fact, yes, the program includes your boarding and lodging for all 12 weeks. So for the period in India and for the international campuses, the boarding and lodging is part of the fee. What is not included in your fee is your travel expense and the visa cost. That is something that you'll have to separately budget for. Does it include certificates from Wharton and LBS? There are certificates from Wharton and LBS. There is a participation certificate that you get from Wharton and LBS, but the program is entirely delivered from ISB. So the final certificate that you get is from ISB. And the international immersions are part of the program in a way that it is also monitored and delivered by ISB. So yes, you do get participation certificates, but the program is an ISB program. Do you have, so there is another question on campus placement. I think we have already answered this, so I'm skipping that. Any analysis on ROI? No, there are no analysis on ROI, simply because pulling a common parallel out of a program like PGPMAX is very difficult. In fact, just a second, somebody's asked for the contact details. I'll put the contact details on the screen. We'll come back to this. So these are the contact details on the screen. Please take a note of these numbers to reach us directly. Yes, on the ROI. So for a normal MBA program, typically we get people with 2 to 5 years of experience. So there is not much of a variance in terms of experience, not much of a variance in terms of the profile as well. And in those cases, there is a campus placement offered as well. So almost always the ROI is a financial ROI, and pulling out common parallels is very easy because the profiles doesn't vary so much. But in a program like PGP Max, as I mentioned, anywhere from project leaders or senior managers to directors, VPs, and CXOs are part of the program. So pulling a common parallel is not possible. And they come from various industries and various walks of life. So there are people from defense, from entrepreneurship background. The DIG of police is part of the current cohort. There is a sailor turned investor. There is an entrepreneur. There is a fashion designer who is running sourcing for a leading fashion design agency. So these are the walks of life from which our participants come in. So pulling a common parallel is very difficult, and that is why there is no ROI calculation done because it's simply impossible to do in a program as diverse as the PGP Max. There is another question which has come in. So there are multiple parts to it. I'll answer each part of it. How many batches per year does PGP Max have? It is only one batch, one intake, happens in August every year. So the next intake is for August 2023, which will run to December 2024. How many applications do we get approximately? That is a confidential number, but we do get a very good share of applications. So roughly about 1 in 3 to 4 applicants make it to the cohort. That is a number to keep in mind. What is the batch size? The batch size is 75 every year. Are ISB's executive education courses or topics covered during the PGP Max course? Not really. Executive education is a separate department. PGP Max is a different program. So the way PGP Max is structured is each of those courses would have a faculty, would have a stated objective, and the details of these are in fact there in the website. In fact, it's a good question. What I'll do is I'll share the PGP Max curriculum link in the chat box right now. Please refer to this link, wherein you will get to see the details of what are the courses covered, what are the stated objectives of these courses, and how are these courses covered. So what are some of these areas which are covered under these courses? All of this is listed in this link. Just share it in the chat box right now. Please click on that link and you will get to see, I think there's a typo in that. Sending it again. So if you click on this link, you will get to see the details of courses covered as part of the PGP Max curriculum. That is a very comprehensive list of courses. It covers a breadth of knowledge requirement for general management, and it is very purposefully done, specifically done for PGP Max as a course. If not selected in the current batch, how many future occasions can one reapply? There is no limit to reapplication. You can reapply anytime in future. And once you apply for the program, your reapplicant fee is 1,000 rupees, and you can populate the content from your previous application. So all those options are there. And there is no limit to reapplication. You are open to reapply for the program anytime in future. There is a question on somebody who wants to apply for PGP course. What I would recommend there is an admission team for PGP. So if you do get in touch with them, they'll be happy to look at your profile, give you a profile evaluation, and help you understand more. So that is one option. There's one more question from Khalil. I did not get that question, Khalil. If you can write it again in detail, I'll be happy to answer that. Is there any senior grade corporate placement opportunities? No, I think we discussed this in detail. There is no campus placement as such, but there are multiple career services support which are put in place. Please do refer to those details in the website. There's another question on, so should I consider PGP Max or PGP is the question. What I would recommend here is I had shared a link for booking a one-to-one conversation with us. If you can book a one-to-one conversation with us, it is there in the chat box. Please book a one-to-one conversation with us, and I'll be happy to look at your profile and then suggest which might be the right program for you. That's probably the best way to do it. I'm sending the link again in the chat box. Please use this link in the chat box right now. for a profile evaluation, I'll be happy to look at your profile and help you with the details. So will ISB give boarding and lodging for family as well as a question? There, we do it on a case-to-case basis. You will have to write in and request for accommodating a family member. Typically, one additional family member can come and be with you for the duration of your immersion. Comes at an extra cost as well. So that detail will be shared by the operations team at ISB. It is done on a case-to-case basis, and it is available. It is facilitated from the ISB team. So there is a question on iVentures. What are some of the options available at iVentures? So you'll find more details on what iVentures does with Catapult in the iVentures website. But typically, the Catapult at ISB is an opportunity to present your startup idea to a faculty panel, and through them to get access to a list of VC firms in the country. These are some of the VC firms who partner with us listed on the screen. But this is just a small list. There's just 6 names listed on the screen right now. There are about 18 plus VC firms which are part of the iVentures community. A detailed list of details of this is there in the iVentures website. I would recommend that you have a look at that website as well. Excellent. So I think that covers all the questions that we had. On screen again are our contact details. Feel free to reach out to us if you need any help. If you have any further questions, we'll be happy to help you with the program details or with the application process. I had also shared the link for the one-to-one conversation. Please make use of the one-to-one conversation if you need a profile evaluation to be done. And do join us for this next event next Saturday. It is a PGPMAX student diaries where we are hosting 3 of our current participants to discuss more about their program experience. So that is a good way, that is a good platform for you to get the insider input on the program. Please do join us for this event as well. I think that has covered all our questions. Are there any further questions that I can help you with? There's one more that has come in. Is there a way to find PGPMAX students from the current organization? Okay, Praveen, what I will recommend again is if you can book a one-to-one conversation, and if you tell me which is the organization that you're part of, I'll be happy to check with our alumni team, get the details of our alums in the organization and share it with you. Let's have a one-to-one call for this. Please do book one. Excellent. So that covers most of the questions, in fact, all of the questions that we had. Are there any further questions that I can help you with? Kali, your question, which I did not understand, if you can write it again, I'll be happy to answer that. Excellent. All right, so I think we have covered all questions. Thank you so much for taking the time, especially on a Saturday, for joining us for this event. Hope this session was helpful in giving you a detailed understanding of what the program is about, how to look at PGPMAX as a consideration, and how to go about applying for the program. Feel free to reach out to us if you need any support or help in understanding more about the program. These are again the contact numbers listed on the screen. One last question. Yes, please, Praveen, we do write it in. There is okay. There's another question on some portion of this session. We'll be posting the session in YouTube. So on Monday we'll have this session again reposted in YouTube. There are previous sessions also posted in the YouTube. So if you search for PGPMAX Infosession in YouTube, you will get these sessions, and this particular session also will be posted there. Feel free to have a review there. Is there tax benefit available on fees or loan interests? Yes, there are tax benefits available. Again, what I'll do is I'll get in touch with you and detail you about it. So there are 2 options. If the company is sponsoring you, the company gets to take a GST benefit, and if when you pay the fee under ATE exemption, there is a tax benefit available. I will get you in touch with the finance team to know more about this, to talk more about this. Let's have a one-to-one call and I'll get you in touch with the right person. Thank you so much. Thank you, Captain Arfat. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us again. Thanks a lot for taking the time. Feel free to reach out to us if you need any help. We'll be happy to support you with the program evaluation and with the application process. Please do keep in mind that March 19th is our final deadline. So if you're planning for the August 2023 date, that is a date to keep in mind. Wishing you all the best. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend ahead.